I'm just saying, Empire is still the best. It's the most complex, the most sophisticated. Wasn't afraid to have a dark ending.
Yeah, but come on, if it wasn't for the first one, you wouldn't have any of the rest of the movies.
Well, at least we can all agree the third one's always the worst.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Eight years before Deadpool and Wolverine stepped into the MCU, fans of the fuck side of Marvel stepped into a big piece of poop, also known as X-Men Apocalypse. In it, an ancient, almost all-powerful mutant reawakens into the modern world, where he immediately has the same thought as anyone who has ever logged onto Twitter. He wants to burn it all down. And so, as Apocalypse goes around recruiting 4 mutant horsemen to help him terraform the Earth, the X-Men need to put their young new students to good use and stop it all before it's too late. And to be blunt right away, it's a pretty bad movie. Which is weird, because it's made by the same people who just 2 years earlier made one of the best comic book movies ever. This time they just fumbled for some reason, reasons that this video aims to uncover. And of course, a lot of the factors behind this movie's failure are very obvious and visible on the surface. Casting a great actor and burying him under so much makeup that he can't act. Not a good idea. Making the villain look like a dumb battleship who can't move properly and who seems out of place everywhere he goes.
Flame of man's awakening. To spin the wheel of some...
Not a good idea. Making 90% of the movie be about CGI that 80% of the time doesn't look good, not a good idea. I mean, is this a 200 million blockbuster or a cutscene from a PS2 game? But to go deeper than the surface, the main problem with this movie that rots it from the core is that it shouldn't exist. It was made simply for the sake of making it. Yeah, the new X-Men movie was a big success, so let's make another. And now, here we are, at the beginning of the end of the X-Men franchise. Without a doubt, that is the most toxic and harmful mentality in today's Hollywood. Do not have an existence-worthy reason or basis to make a movie other than the fact that a movie must be made. And in this video, let's dive deeper into what that means and how it manifests itself, so that we can avoid the same pitfalls. Because this problem is so bad here that it's enough to ruin even one of the best aspects of the entire movie.
No more weapons! No more systems!
And actually, comment below right now what you think is the best thing about X-Men Apocalypse. Really, please, I'm interested to know what you guys think and if we think alike. And for motivation, we can do another classic Filmento Displate giveaway. Displates, these high-quality metal sheet posters that they sent me to show in exchange for me being able to give them out for free. I got a whole new batch of designs including comic book movie goats and fan favorite cuties and funny memes and even Displate's new 3D Textra models. So leave your comment below now and I'll pick out a few that get closest. Also, since everybody can't win,
We're looking for the strongest.
Displate was once again willing to sponsor another 2-week Filmento audience discount of 22 to 30% off everything on their site. So check them out because they have a lot of cool designs from movies to games to everything else, with a long list of official partners. All their designs are printed on metal, which makes them top quality and easy to hang up and swap out in seconds. Just stick a magnet with a protective leaf on the wall and boom. The link is below, use code Filmento, and here we go. The first unworthy existence problem here is that this movie lacks a central idea that all scenes can serve, which makes it an aimless mess of disconnected events. After the Apocalypse prologue, the first act quickly gets all over the place. We jump all around time and space like a headless chicken. CIA agent McTaggart investigates an Egyptian cult that wants to reawaken an ancient mutant. Scott Summers is in high school in Ohio having a basic Ohio day. Mystique enters a German fight club to free 2 caged mutants forced to battle each other for human entertainment. Magneto lives an ordinary life in Poland with his new family. Xavier is at home running his school for young mutants, or at least trying to. Oh, and of course there's also Jean Grey having mandatory Dark Phoenix foreshadowing.
No, you don't know what it's like to be afraid to shut your eyes. Be trapped inside.
What you can notice is that these plots and subplots have almost nothing to do with each other. They don't connect, they have no anchor to lead them to the same place. It's as if the filmmakers hopped into a sandbox to play with their toys with no idea what game they're playing. And what happens as a result is that there's no time to make anything out of any of it. Yeah, Scott is in high school and there's a random bully and then he has powers. That's it. Not only is the scene itself very brief and meh, but now we also can't get into Scott's self-hating agony because there was no time to develop it. To see humans be afraid of him, to see a response from the government, to see him accidentally injure someone. Yeah, the mutants are cage fighting and Mystique frees them and then they're free. That's it. Not only does the fight itself feel very lackluster and forced,
Fight! Or they'll kill us both!
Who are those guys?
but now we also don't understand anything. Why does Apocalypse want to hire Falcon when Falcon has done nothing worth hiring him for? Why is Mystique saving mutants in Europe when Europe or the idea of mutants being discriminated against are not relevant outside of one superficial fight club and a verbal mention?
Out there, mutants are still running, hiding, living in fear.
Yeah, there's an Egyptian cult who want to reawaken Apocalypse for some reason, and then they're gone. Yeah, Magneto has a family now, apparently, and then they're gone. That's it. We gotta move on to other stuff. In order to play in a cinematic sandbox, you have to know the game you're playing to make the most out of time. All scenes and subplots should connect. And I don't mean that an earthquake in one scene is felt in the others. I mean that everything should complement each other and progress toward the same direction. For instance, if we show a scene where Magneto semi-controls the Earth in anger after losing his family, the scene would further Apocalypse's journey as well. Now it would be clear why Apocalypse needs to hire Magneto, because Magneto is the answer to his quest of tearing everything down. Just an example, but the point is that the scenes would work together instead of being separate scenes. Without scene-crossing unity like that, everything feels aimlessly boring. Apocalypse's goal is to assemble a team of the strongest mutants to terraform the Earth, yet in practice he's like a confused dog chasing every bone he stumbles across. Oh, you're a mutant. Okay, you're hired. Oh, you're a mutant. Okay, you're hired. Oh, you're a mutant. Okay, you're hired. Apocalypse isn't a villain as much as he's a ball randomly bouncing from one plot event to another. He goes to find Magneto somehow and hires him to terraform the Earth even though it's not yet been established that he can do it.
You'll find you have the power to move the very Earth itself.
He comes across Xavier and uses his power to destroy every nuke, even though nukes and governments have played zero part in the movie so far. But that's what's happening now. Whatever. In every movie, there needs to be a central idea to anchor the journey. If that idea is that the Earth must be remade because most of the Earth is obsessed with or scared of mutant powers, then that's what it should be. The cult should be looking for Apocalypse because they want power. Storm should get in trouble because she's found out as a mutant with power.
All I want is to eat that house and become like you.
Magneto's journey of loss should establish his power to control the Earth, which gets Apocalypse's attention. If you don't have a clear central idea to anchor your movie's content around, don't make the movie, because most likely what you'll end up with is a big, disconnected mess.
Hi there, little fella.
Another unworthy existence problem here is that this movie is more or less the same as the ones before it, and thus adds no new value. The worst example of this by far is Magneto's journey, which kind of reduces him into bad luck Eric. Like I mentioned, Magneto lives a humble human life in Poland with his wife and daughter that I guess he now has. He's being a nice guy, not making trouble, until one day he gets found out as a mutant at work and loses everything as a result. Which of course sets him on a broken path of mass destruction because there's no other way. And it's like, how many times are we supposed to see this? Oh, Magneto is a good guy, but then he's a bad guy, and Xavier is saying they're brothers and there's good in him, but then he's like, no there's not, except then at the end there kind of is.
You betray me.
No. I betrayed them. Oh my f***ing god, bro. I'm bold now because of you.
It may be new on screen because Magneto has a wife and daughter and he's in Poland, but it's the same metaphor of him being punished simply for who he is. If this movie didn't exist, none of this character's value would be lost because all that value already exists.
Is this what you want from me? Is this what I am?
And in this manner, a lot of the content here is visual redressing of the past. When Quicksilver shows up to Xavier's mansion, he has to use his super speed to get people out of there before an explosion eats everything and everyone, which, to be fair, is very awesome and entertaining to watch. But that being said, it's almost a one-for-one redo of the sequence from Days of Future Past. Like, yes, it's bigger and advanced and the threat is fire instead of enemies, but the narrative core is the same. Quicksilver kind of half-accidentally gets put in the middle of the situation where heroes face imminent doom, and then he handles it casually without problems while a famous song plays.
But there never seems to be enough time to
There's no change in power dynamics, no change in tone, no change in really anything except the visual side. It's the same light-hearted showcase of the same, like a DLC expansion. Again, my point isn't that the sequence is bad, because it's not, it's awesome. My point is that it already exists and thus doesn't really need to exist. For some reason, the filmmakers couldn't take a more serious and competitive angle with the Speed Force. Things can be serious only when the Speed Force is not used. I mean, the sequence wanted that same light-hearted tone so badly that it fully ignored the fact that a hero character just burned alive. I don't absolutely need this because I already have this, but what I would have absolutely needed is a combination of the speed technology and a more serious competitive dynamic. A proper high-speed fight between a speedster and a god. That would have added new franchise value worth existing for. What I'm getting at is that a movie should exist only when it needs to exist. Wolverine going on a rampage in a lab can be awesome, but it's not necessary. You could have cut it out and literally nothing in the franchise or this movie would change. Xavier's relationship with Magneto is full of power, but the same power as before.
Please listen to me, Eric. No, Charles, I will not listen.
Nothing of value has been added to this relationship, and thus nothing of value would be lost if it didn't exist. The third act with the big world-ending CGI can be cool to see when you're 10 years old, but you don't need to see it. You could also see any of the other 50 big world-ending CGI third acts from the same year. The question of whether a movie should be made is not a question of whether it will work or not or be good or not. The question is only over will the movie add new value. And if it doesn't, if it already exists in another visual form, then clearly it shouldn't be made. At least not for any other reason than money. And audiences can always tell the difference. The third unworthy existence problem here is that this movie lacks an overarching theme to explore all around, which leaves it without an identity. And like I hinted at in the beginning, this is actually one of the movie's biggest strengths, because it has a thematic identity that's actually very timely and interesting: modernity. See, when Apocalypse reawakens into the modern world full of consumerism and technological innovation, he's immediately disgusted at it. Not only because it's everywhere like a plague, but also because it has shifted the scales of power.
We have taken the Earth.
The world is now run by people without power who use systems to gain it. Corporations with their products and buildings, governments with their rules and bombs, a culture of destructive brain rot designed to control. Whereas for Apocalypse, power means raw power of the individual. That's why he wants to remake the world, to tear down all these things and cede power back to those who possess it.
No more weapons!
You don't need a machine to amplify your powers.
No more system!
But even though this thematic point is very interesting, it does not work. Why? Because it's not consistent in all areas of the movie. With everyone else outside of Apocalypse, the modernity theme isn't relevant. It's not a topic people think about. It's not a central obstacle they have to overcome. It's not a point of contention that requires exploration or choice. Governments and their nukes play zero part in the movie until Apocalypse suddenly finds a way to get rid of them. Xavier and his school aren't worrying about some new technology that the government is using to keep track of mutants at all times. They don't have to push against the development of anti-mutant weapons. None of that is a thing until over an hour in, the government shows up out of nowhere with anti-mutant weapons, after which they and their weapons disappear back into irrelevancy. Magneto doesn't lose his family because the modern world is full of anti-mutant hate networks connected through 80s Reddit. It's not like radicalized people show up to his house with self-made plastic guns to hurt him because their echo chamber community taught them all that. No, random local cops pop up with bows and arrows and accidentally shoot Magneto's family, and that's the end of that. The intriguing thematic core does not help because it's not ever present. The most impressionable movies are always those that can be described with one or two words, like the Dark Knight trilogy. It's fear, chaos, pain. That's what those movies are about, inside out. Or like how Days of Future Past is about time, not only because it's time travel and time slowing, but also because it's about second chances, about correcting past mistakes, about changing something that only moves forward. And in here, that could have been just as effective. This whole movie could have been about conflicting views over modernity. Apocalypse is against the modern world of proxy power, and that's something the heroes would also have to wrestle with. Like, is there truth to that? Would we mutants be better off without modern-day superpower nations? Would it be better and safer if power existed only in the individual instead of in bombs and armies and the barrel of a gun? But nah, that theme covers barely 10% of this movie.
Deliver?
Shut your fucking mouth!
Even with Apocalypse, the theme is missing more than it's present. Aside from the ending of using what humans have built to destroy them, Apocalypse's actions often have nothing to do with modernity. Most of the time, he's going around hiring random mutants for no clear reason to assemble a team of 4 horsemen that means nothing. 3 of those horsemen play literally zero part in the thematic story. I mean, even Apocalypse himself sometimes doesn't abide by his own thematic beliefs. He uses TV to learn history and language. He gives Falcon wings that are very high-tech and in no way natural to him. For a guy obsessed with yesterday, Apocalypse sure seems to make the most out of what's available today. And the problem with an inconsistent theme like this is that it confuses the movie's identity. This isn't a movie someone made because they wanted to explore a certain topic with it. It's mostly just a movie. Someone made it because it had to be made and put stuff in it because it needs stuff, and now here it is. Okay, well, there it was and there it went, already forgotten. No anchor, no added value, no ever-present thematic point. No thanks.